Welcome to part 2 of the lecture over non-Mendelian genetics. Today we're going to be focusing on multiple alleles and sex-linked traits. So multiple allele crosses are crosses where 3 or more alleles of the same gene code for a single trait. An example for this is blood type, which is determined by 3 alleles, allele A, B, and O. Well, we know that these genes come in pairs. You get one from mom and one from dad. So each human can only inherit 2 alleles, even though there are 3 possible alleles out there in the population. We know that allele A and allele B are considered codominant, while allele O is considered recessive. The reason allele A and B are codominant is because the allele affects the antigens on the blood cell. So when we say that you're blood type A, that means that you have a type A antigen on the exterior of your red blood cell. If you're blood type B, you have a B antigen on the exterior of your red blood cell. Now, they're considered codominant because if you have an A allele and a B allele, you end up with both the A antigen and the B antigen on your red blood cell. Neither one of them overpowers the other and both are present, and so they're considered codominant. And then finally, O is considered recessive because in blood type O, you end up with no antigens on the red blood cell. So there are 4 different blood types, A, B, AB, and O, and there's a variety of ways to make each. So in order to create blood type A, you need to either have 2 A alleles or an A allele and an O allele. The A will overpower the O, causing blood type A. For blood type B, you can either have 2 B alleles or a B and an O. The B will overpower the O, causing blood type B. The only way to create an AB blood type is to have 1 A allele and 1 B allele. And then finally, type O, you have to have 2 O alleles. Now when we write these with I's, with superscripts, in order to show that it's related to the blood cell. And so when we're going to do these problems, we're going to write an I, and then the allele is going to be up as a superscript. So let's try one out. A woman who's type AB blood marries a man who is heterozygous type A. What will be the possible genotypes and phenotypes of their children? So on every problem, we start with our APPS checklist. The first letter is A, which is our alleles. So I went ahead and copied and pasted the table from our last slide to show all the different allele types. Next, after alleles is P for parents, and so we need to find the parents now. So first we have a woman who is type AB blood. The only way for her to be type AB is to have an IA, IB. Then she marries a man who's heterozygous type A. So there's 2 different ways to create type A, either 2 A's or an A and an O. If he is heterozygous, hetero meaning different, then you would have to have an AO phenotype, meaning IA, IO. After we find the parents, we're going to place them on a Punnett square, fill in the square to find what the possibilities of the offspring are. Then for this, I'm looking for the genotypes and phenotypes of their children. So for genotypes, we always just find the letter combinations, right? So we have an IAIA, IAIB, IAIO, and IBIO. Those are the different phenotypes present. Then, for phenotypes, we need to figure out what each of these would be. So this would be type A blood. This one would also be type A blood. This one would be type AB, and this one would be type B. So you end up with either type A, type AB, or type B blood. And then what blood type is recessive? We know that type O blood is considered recessive. The next thing we're going to look at is polygenic traits. Polygenic traits are traits that are controlled by 2 or more genes. And so there are more than just one area on your chromatids that's going to express the trait for that gene. And so 2 different examples for this is skin color and eye color. They're controlled by lots of different genes on different areas of your chromatids. And different combinations will give you a different range in these traits. And so you're going to end up with different eye colors based on the different genes that you have in those different areas of those chromatids. Now, these are very difficult to decipher and do, and so we're not going to do any examples of these, but you do need to know what polygenic traits are for your test. Next, we're going to move into sex-linked traits. And before we get into sex-linked traits, we need to first learn about sex determination. What is the probability of a husband and wife having a boy or girl baby? And so we know from our karyotype lecture that moms, their sex chromosomes are XX. That 23rd pair, that sex chromosomes, is XX for females, and for males it's XY. So if I were to do a cross for these two parents, you would see that there is a 50% chance of them having a female baby and a 50% chance of them having a male baby. You can see that mom is always going to give an X in her eggs. So each of her eggs all have an X in them because that's all mom has. She cannot give anything but an X. But the male can either give an X or a Y, which means he can either have sperm with X's in it or sperm with Y's in it after meiosis. And so he is actually the one that determines the sex of the child, depending on which sperm finds the egg first. So we had to understand how to do crosses with the sex chromosomes because sex-linked traits are traits that are located on the X chromosomes. And so you're going to have to use the X chromosomes to help you solve these. We know that no alleles are located on the Y chromosome for these traits, and they're always on the X. For women, since we have two X's, it's going to be just like with our other genetics. The dominant trait is going to be expressed if a dominant allele is present. If both of them are recessive, then you'll have a recessive trait. But for males, no matter what is on the X chromosome for them, that is what's going to show up because they only have one X chromosome. And so they don't have another X to either overpower it or complement it. And so now, whatever is on the male's X chromosome is going to be the trait that they have. An example of a sex-linked trait is color blindness, which is the inability to distinguish between certain colors. That trait is found on the X chromosome. So let's practice a problem with that. A female that has normal vision but is a carrier for color blindness marries a male with normal vision. Color blindness is a sex-linked trait. So we know that normal vision is dominant, and that's why I put a capital in here, and color blindness is recessive. That is our alleles, that A step. Now we're going to go to the parents. Let's figure out what the parents are. The female has normal vision, but we know that they're a carrier for color blindness, which means she has a color blindness gene on one of her X chromosomes. So her genotype is going to be X with a capital N, showing that there is a dominant trait on that X chromosome, and an X with a lowercase n, showing that there is a recessive trait on that chromosome. Now she has normal vision because this N here, the capital, is going to overpower the lowercase n, causing her to have normal vision. For the dad, the male has normal vision. He only has one X, and so it's going to be X with a capital N, and then his other sex chromosome is Y. He's not going to have another X. So if we were to cross these two parents and place it in our Punnett square, our next P, this is what the offspring would become. And so you'd see that you have a female here with normal vision, another female with normal vision, a male with normal vision, and then a male with color blindness. So if I wanted the genotypic ratio, I would find each of the genotypes, such I have 4 different ones, and there's one of each. One of each of the genotypes in the boxes. Then for the phenotypic ratio, I need to find the phenotypes. And so I would have 2 normal females here, 1 normal male to 1 colorblind male. Another example is if I ask the question, what's the percent chance of this couple having a male with color blindness? The answer to that question would be 25%, not 50%. Because there's a 50% chance of them having a boy child instead of a girl. And then there's a 50% chance that that boy is going to have the color blindness gene. And so please make sure when you're answering questions like that, you are counting the boxes still and dividing them by the total number of boxes. So 1 out of a total of 4 would give us 25%. So from here, you're going to work on the multiple allele and sex-linked practice problems in your packet, and it's going to be due before class tomorrow.